Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at Spells for Days. This is the deck I did right at the start of the expansion. Nothing has really changed with it. I'm pretty sure it's basically back to being normal, but I wanted to give it a go and see how it was performing in this meta, and we're going to get right into that with this video. So we're running a triple Destiny Bard. I have considered maybe just dropping that to 2, but 3 still does pretty well. 1 Giant Chimera just for an extra finisher, and basically just standard everything else. So your main win conditions are Rooney, Snowman, and normal Chimera, where you have an extra edition of Giant Chimera just for that little bit of edge you might need, and plenty of removal spells, limiting followers as much as possible to things that are summoned by spells. So we're going to get right into this and take a look. So our first game is against Portal. Not surprising, Portal seems to be running pretty well on ladder and popping up everywhere at the moment. And we start off with a pretty reasonable hand. Staff of Whirlwinds is probably the only card in this entire hand that may be awkward. Having the Chimera and the Mysterian Knowledge are both great, and drawing Rooney is actually really good as well. Making sure we guarantee that 4-drop play, especially going second. It's nice when you can use that Evo on the Rooney and get its spell boost immediately. So we now get a perfect curve right through, which is amazing. Being able to pretty much curve right up to Chimera, no issues. Especially with this Lion play, we are going to be able to clear that very, very easily. While at the same time, setting up out very well for turn 3. And getting Staff of Whirlwinds even sets up turn 5 if we want to go with that instead of using the Chimera, which will basically be playable by that point.
Whoa, I'm actually flying!
So the 2-2 gets to come down, no real issue, just kind of flooding their deck with stuff now. Really just want to make sure we can get whatever we can on board, and I really like using Tsukiyomi from the Moon and Sun in this deck, just because it's much better getting that 1 ping damage that will put you close to lethal over healing, unless you're already in a situation where you know healing is going to benefit you. Like if you're going up against an aggro sword or an aggro blood, you know that you want to be pushing healing a little more than damage in some cases, and that's where it can be a little bit better. So I do tend to favour Prophecy of Doom, at least a 1 of Prophecy of Doom. I don't tend to go for the 2 of, and you could definitely probably run Unbodied Witch, but I do feel like Unbodied Witch is a little clunky, especially in this deck where you really want to be getting your Prophecy of Doom off well before 9. So we do get our boost, and we get 1 damage to the face, plus another trade, which is actually pretty reasonable. It just stops them easily trading into this Rooney without having to sacrifice something else. Because if our Rooney survives, we get 1 extra spell boost, which is a huge advantage. Biofab, really stacking the deck, pushing those analyzings out.
Coming at you.
I'm just going for the pretty easy evolve by the looks of things.
Don't worry, I'll handle this. How could there be a future like this?
So the Staff of Whirlwinds is actually a pretty reasonable card. We do have a few other good options, but I think that's the best one. Being able to get 1 damage to the face, lowering them even closer within our range, while at the same time clearing out their entire board that turn. Plus we have plenty of removal, so I'm not worried about anything else. Deus Ex Machina, not surprising on 6. I mean, with how they were stacking their deck, this was pretty much expected. But we do have a pretty nice setup so far for dealing with this.
Darkness on this plane.
Wind Blast, very, very easy way to remove that. Just that perfect amount of removal. Fortunately, they do banish 1 Moon and Sun, but we do have a second one to back that up. It's why we do run more than 1 of that in this deck, because banishments are more common, especially in stuff like Portal, which is very common on ladder at the moment. You do want to make sure you've got at least the Moon and Sun to run. So, prioritizing the missile, just boosting things as much as we kind of can. Which this will let us get our Prophecy of Doom within a playable area, which is great. Putting it on 8. So if they don't play anything too crazy, we can use that. If they do go a little more crazy, we're probably going to have to clear stuff out before we can have a chance at playing Prophecy of Doom. But we'll just have to wait and see. So there's an extra little ping of damage.
The darkness doesn't end.
And it looks like they're going analyzing. Full-blown analyzing artifacts. I mean, I shouldn't be too shocked. Pretty expected this was the course that they were going to go down. With meta, they get their resonance as well, which is pretty perfect. So, looks like they're going for the analyzing draw power archetype, which is good. Definitely something we want to be able to deal with, and since we drew Magic Owl, that's actually going to work really nicely. We can at least spell boost our Prophecy and our Fiery Embrace down, and boost our Wind Blast and Absolute Zero, even though probably don't need either of those much. Absolute Zero Blade would let us draw a card though, but I do want to at least try and work out other ways to go about removing all this first. So I do end up prioritising the Prophecy of Doom instead, mainly because Prophecy of Doom just felt better to play out, especially since I can set up a 2-turn lethal with this. With Moon and Sun and stuff like that on board, it's going to be very easy to get that extra damage we need, especially with an evolve. If we evolve Moon and Sun, we throw it into one follower, we get 1 damage, the 7 damage over 2 turns, plus another ping. The only real risk we're going to have is if they play Saphira, but I don't believe we've killed anywhere near enough analyzing artifacts to actually clear out our board, so as long as we can wipe out these few followers here, we should survive quite easily. But they are going very wide, which isn't overly surprising. So I do have to come up with a way to do this. Since we drew Snowman King, we actually have a really good way to go for lethal, regardless of what happens now, whether Moon and Sun is actually banished. Since we can just flood the board, so as long as they don't play 2 wards, we should survive. And of course, as long as they can't just absolutely decimate us with Saphira, which, like I mentioned, I don't believe they're anywhere near actually getting lethal on us this turn. They might be close, but not quite there, I don't think. I do really need to try and keep count of artifacts a little more when I am playing against Portal. We just see another Excel, which kind of sucks. It means they can play basically whatever they want. Luckily, we do have Snowman King, which has been spell boosted 4 times, I believe, at this point, or at least 3. Which will give us more than enough to do this. I'm pretty sure it was at 4. Pretty sure we can summon 4 snowmen with that, which will be great.
Your time is up.
So there's the Saphira. Again, don't think it's quite there, and happen to be right, it was only at 9, so a reasonable amount away. We were pretty safe. And we can easily throw Snowman down, Wild Snowman, straight to the face for victory. Which is great, being able to win that way. I love my snowmen, and why not use them this side? So our next matchup is against Forest. Another class that seems to be doing quite well. There are a few different variations of Forest that seems to be floating around in rotation at the moment. Mostly things that are either a neutral B&B version of Forest or a more control orientated one using Jungle Wardens and stuff as their lethal condition. We start off with a decent hand, good draw power, a good spell boost. All we need now is something to actually boost up. And Chimera is a pretty good target for that, so getting that on the draw there at least gives us something that we can take advantage of. So we don't see any big plays from our opponent at all for turn 1 or 2, which is both good and bad. It means that they really don't have anything low, but at the same time it means they probably have a decent mid to late game. So Starry Elf, put a random amulet from your deck into your hand. That one's not too shocking. I haven't fought too many Forest decks lately, only because there hasn't been that many floating around, but there are still a few. So sometimes I get surprised by what I see, just because I haven't played quite as much Shadowverse in the last week as I normally would. So we can go for our Prophecy of Doom, which is great with the Evo. So again, we get a spell boost, which with this hand is guaranteed to boost at least 3 cards. All of which are, well, 4 cards, sorry, but 3 that will have their cost reduction and 1 that will actually up what they can kill. So I think that's fair.
Watch, I'll get over this.
So Wood of Brambles. More and more cards coming down. Insect Lord's a great way to remove this.
How could there be a
So they got a
future
pretty
like
good
this?
card off that. And the Fairy. Why not? So there's no reason we don't really go for our Magic Owl. I mean, that's a guaranteed 2 spell boost, plus the Magic Missile, which is even better. Especially since we drew Snowman, so that's great.
Going beyond dimensions.
Massive boosts this turn, dropping everything to within a pretty decent range. Prophecy is almost at its playable level of minimum 10. Which with Chimera, Fiery, and a few other cards there, should be pretty easy to get, especially with another Magic Owl lined up.
All are equal
So we get
before
Venus,
love.
put a Harvest Festival. Venus has become very popular in most of these control-y type forest decks, or I'm not really sure whether to call them control forest. It's just what they feel like when I play against them. They definitely stack against their late game more than their early game, so it is interesting to see.
Daria, it's your time, girl.
So, Magic Owl gives us the boost we need. Absolute Zero Blade, since we already have an Evo, which will give us a draw, so why not use that? And there's no reason to play our Fiery Embrace and Chimera yet, since we can save those till next turn.
You're done for.
Especially since I can actually use Snowman, Fiery and Chimera all in a single turn if I needed to. Fortunately that is going to be killed, but Fiery Embrace should kill the 3-6 very, very easily, so we're not too worried about the 3-6 being on board. If it did still have its effect, would have been better to kill it then, but I'll settle for what we can get. So there's a nice little Wind Blast. Do go for the Tsukuyomi play.
Darkness on this plane.
Mainly because I knew I was going to go for this anyway.
Got me.
Didn't really matter how I went about killing these, as long as they were dead.
But
And we can hold on to whatever we want really. We got Fiery, Wind Blast, another Conjure Golem. Prophecy's now at 4, which is super low, so next turn it's basically guaranteed to be played.
the darkness
Not so lucky.
has ended.
Kind of unfortunate that had to be the way they went. I would have liked to at least get a little bit of damage. But at least we get our Conjure Golem out and a nice good Wind Blast.
This is exactly what I didn't want.
So I'm not too worried about the 1-1, really want to save the Fiery Embrace if I can. Now that we've set up Prophecy of Doom, they are taking 7 every turn, which gives them a clock of at most 3 turns, outside of any major healing of course. So another one followed up, clearing my board again. A little disappointed with it. Really wish I had a little bit of a better turn there.
What's that
But
for?
you can't really pass up 7 damage. So we get our Snowmen.
Hey, do something about these winters. Yes,
Going
Your
for
Majesty.
the wards this time around, thinking that maybe blocking is the better option.
Oh, you got me.
If even one of these survive, we get them really close to our lethal range, which is great. If not, at least we have a decent board. And we're not taking
That was a
damage,
real
so we can
workout.
survive at least a couple of turns.
That was a real workout.
The stars.
There's another
pale
Cassiopeia.
beside me.
Again, this is their 3rd one, so we know that they're now out of Cassiopeias, so any kind of flooding we do now is going to be a little harder for them to counter.
It won't be long now.
And the Evo on that Cassiopeia is going to get them the 5 damage they need to go face with,
Hate you.
but also makes it a great target for future cards. So Absolute Zero Blade, unfortunately, not quite enough to hit that 5-5, but Fiery Embrace is perfect.
This is exactly
If they
what
don't
I
heal,
want.
we win. If they do heal, then it's going to be a lot harder.
Bunch of slobs.
Angel Stress, not a heal yet.
Over.
Crystal Aaron, unfortunately, that is a 3 heal, so that's going to put them just out of lethal range unless we get a good draw here. Chimera isn't exactly good, but at least it limits the damage they can output. So unless they do have some kind of storm now that's bigger than Jungle Warden, we should win, which, with their concede, obviously they didn't quite have what they needed. So even without any major changes, this deck still does pretty well. I mean, it does run, what, 5, 6 legendaries? That's pretty average for decks these days, I guess. I definitely would consider dropping Rooney down. You could get away with 1 Moon and Sun and probably just replace it with some other spell that could fit in this kind of mold, which wouldn't be too difficult. But I would definitely recommend having at least 1 Chimera in the deck, definitely 2 Bard, and a minimum 1 Moon. If you were going to change this deck at all, those would be the card adjustments I would make. Just fill them in with something else that could fit in the same mechanics, whether that be another low cost spell in the 2-drop range or 3-drop range, or whether you want to add in maybe another Chimera or just something else that could be spell boosted. It was really up to you, but it's a pretty free-flowing deck and something that I threw together myself, which is always great. I don't throw too many decks together myself and usually just adjust here and there on pre-existing decks, but when a deck like this works, I really enjoy playing it. So do hit that like button and subscribe. You can find the deck list in the description below, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.